Hey folks, it's Claude. We're back in the tiny kitchen, and this time around I'm going to show you how to make a pretty good gravy. This again is going to require some advanced preparation, just like brining the turkey, just like making the stuffing. Everything got to be taken care of in advance. The first thing you're going to want for this is turkey wings. And this time of year, when you get close to Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people are buying turkeys, people aren't necessarily buying parts, so they can be a little bit tough to find. You might want to plan a little bit ahead on that. But on the third try, I did luck out and I found some turkey wings. Now, turkey wings typically come with the same way as you would with chicken wings, with the two halves connected to one another, in which case you want to separate them. And you got the Pampered Chef kitchen shears, which are really good for mayhem and just getting right at the heart of stuff. Or you've got the professional shears, which have the little clip on the bottom to hold them shut because they are, spring-loaded. Okay, these are good if you need a little bit more leverage. Okay, you need a little bit of help. Your hands aren't quite up to the task. They'll both get the job done, though. But I happen to luck out because, as it turns out, the wings that I purchased are already portioned out. So the flats and the wings are already done. I don't necessarily want the tips, but I don't really care in this particular case. And you'll see why in a little bit. All right, so I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, thank you. And I am going to take a baking sheet and I'm going to take my little Pampered Chef oil spray bottle. This is cool. You want to get out in there and buy the aerosol stuff? That's up to you. But you know what? This gets the job done. And it gets it done well, and it gets it done much more inexpensively. All right, so I pumped a little bit of air into this guy, and as I noted in another video, I've got two of these. I got one for canola oil, there you go, and I got the other one for the olive oil. But we're gonna use canola this time around because we don't really want to impart any extra flavor at this point. All right, spray my pan down. Just give it a nice light coat. And we're going to take our wings and put them here on the pan. And what I've got is about 3 to 4 pounds worth of turkey wings on this. Look, I still get a little ice on this guy. And I got another package here. Poke into that. I gotta wash these now. I made that mistake one time. I was goofing around with all the raw turkey and put my fingers into my mouth later on, and I wound up with a sad case of food poisoning because I had raw poultry in my mouth. This isn't going to quite fit. Fortunately, I have emergency backup pan, and I think I still got enough pressure in here to get the job done. Yeah. When this thing runs low on pressure, it turns into a straight stream squirt. That's not going to do you any good. So if you see that start to happen, just stop, pump it back up again. All right, I'm going to move some of these over here. I got a couple more in the package. We don't need to crowd them. We're not going to worry about drippings or anything like that, okay? And we're going to take these fellas and we're going to put them into our 400 degree oven for about an hour or until they turn dark brown. So, I'll see you again on the other side of dark brown, okay? Okay, gang, it's been about an hour, so I am going to take our friends out of here. There's tray number 1. And, I need a safe place to put tray number 2. There we go. Got that there. Tray number 2. Look at those puppies. Look at that color. That's some beautiful stuff or what? You bet. Nice dark color. Put that back in place. We good? Good. All right. Oh, while I'm at it, let me show you something else. I did this in the other video, but I'm going to try and get a better shot of it this time. By the way, you can tell it's been an hour because my hair is drier than it was before. I had wet hair going on. In my oven, I have one of the baking stones. Okay, I like to keep it in here. Now, when you first get it, it's a light tan color, almost like the color of a cutting board. But the more you use it, the darker it gets. And one of the reasons I like to leave it in here is because it's got some weight to it. And it helps provide some thermal mass for the oven so that the temperature doesn't cycle up and down so frequently. There's another good shot of those. Look at those. Oh my God, I'm so good. Anyway, so gives me thermal mass, and this way the temperature doesn't cycle up and down so quickly inside the oven. And you can see how evenly everything came out. Typically, in my particular oven, stuff toward the back gets a little bit hotter and cooks a little bit faster and gets a little bit drier, and this helps even it out all around. All right, so you might have seen me pass by this steamy pot over here. In this pot, I have 6 cups of chicken stock. All right, you can make your own. It's easy to make. All right, boil down some bones, no big deal. Or you can just buy it in the store. That's okay too. All right, and we're going to take our wings. They're a little bit stuck with our Pampered Chef tongs. We had a word about the tongs too, right? Let's talk about that hinge. All right. Okay, it's not sticking too badly. This stock is at just about a full boil. All right. I don't know why I'm wrestling with it. If I gotta fight it with a tool. This is my mini spatula that I got at the last party I attended, and I'm actually kind of liking it. It's good for doing cookies, and it's good for loosening up your turkey wings when they get stuck to the pan. All right, so like I said, stock in the pot is at a boil, and I'm putting in the turkey wings, and so that's not really affecting the boil much because they've just been in a 400-degree oven. And that guy there, and this guy there, and that, and that, and that. You might need a little bit more stock to keep the turkey wings covered, but don't worry about it too deeply because the point of what you're going to do is reduce this a little bit. So I'm going to turn this down now to low and get this back down to a simmer, and that's all right. Most of our wings are pretty much under the surface. All right, and I am going to partially cover it, all right, which is one of the 2 reasons I'm using a mismatched lid on here. Is one, because I can put it on there and there's no chance of it accidentally slipping and then closing up very tightly. And the other reason is, well, frankly, I couldn't find the lid for that guy. That's the way it goes. So, reduce this to a simmer. You want to reduce the volume of the stock down to about, from 6 cups, you want it to go to 4. Okay? That's going to take a little while, and we're talking on the order of 2 hours. So, I'm going to see you in about 1 hour 50, okay? And I'm going to show you what the next few steps are. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours. Our turkey wings have been simmering all that time. I've been moving some of them top to bottom, you know, flipping them around just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to be completely submerged. And you can see as I take them out that some of them are going to be in pretty beat up shape at this point. A lot of the stuff is just boiling clean off. All right, let me get these guys out of here. And I'm putting them into a bowl mostly because there's not much else you can do with them at this point. But you can save some of the meat to feed your dog or use it later on in a soup or whatever else. Do not give your dog any skin. Do not give your dog any bones. The bones will splinter and that will hurt your dog. Okay? The skin is just generally not good for your dog because of the fat that's going to still be in some of it. And as it happens, my dog just avoids skin anyway. Now this is boiled way down. Let's see what we got here. There's another piece here. All right. I'm going to take this off the stove. We got some liquid way down in there. And I'm going to strain this out. And this here is my Pampered Chef 4-cup measuring and mixing bowl. And I pour everything out, and well, I did okay. Didn't lose as much as I thought. So let's get this out of the way. We strained it out, and we are left with just about 2 cups, which I am going to beef up with a little chicken broth. If everybody's okay with that, bring it back up to 4. La la la, la la la, la la la. All right. What now? What do we do? It's okay. We're gonna get this out of the way. Like I said, I'm gonna save some of that for later. The dog's already like hovering underneath me. Here you go. Waiting for bits of turkey. And I am going to get me big skillet. Put that on the stove, put it about to medium heat. Give that a minute to warm up. This I'm just going to put aside for a minute. And this I'm going to put aside. Move our turkey out of here. Now what you're making here is not strictly a gravy, at least the part that I'm going to show you here. This is a base for your gravy, okay? Later on you get to add the drippings in. So all right, yes, I'm foolish. I put my hand into the pan to see if it's hot. Then the other thing I will do is throw a few drops of water in there, which gives me at least a little bit of a gauge how warm the thing is. Remember, the stove was on pretty low for the turkey wings. Clear up my space. I do like to clean as I go along, because when you're in a small kitchen like this, you need to preserve as much room as possible. So as much as possible, I clean while I go. I still got water down there. Got my mini spatula again. Don't worry, I washed it. It has been a couple hours. And I washed my hands repeatedly. Maybe I should tell you about that, man. That was a couple of Thanksgivings ago. And you know, you prepare your bird and do whatever you're going to do. And I was putting the stuffing into the bird and picking at the stuffing. I mean, the stuffing's cooked. What's the big deal? But I'm putting it into a raw bird. So clearly I got some, you know, raw bird stuff on my fingers. And the only fortunate thing that happened was when I got sick, and I did get sick, it was like very late at night, and my wife is the type who likes to go Black Friday shopping. She likes to be there when the stores open at midnight. It's her thing. So she and a cousin, they sit down, they go over all the sales, they figure out like what's their plan, how they're going to go, which one they're going to hit first. So they were long gone by the time I got sick. So I was pretty miserable all night and alone. So that's the way that goes. All right, we are just about ready over here. So the bottom line is, you know, keep the hands clean, especially after you're touching the raw poultry. See, we all think we're invincible. Never happens. All right, I've got a stick of butter over here. I'm going to use the whole thing eventually, but for right now, I'm only going to use about 1 tablespoon. Scoop that off of there. and melt it into here. All right. And into this melting butter, I am going to add, oops, this is a small red onion. There's no such thing as a small red onion. Every time you go, they're like the size of softballs. So you got to kind of figure it out, right? I took a large onion and I minced it up. You want little pieces. You don't want like huge pieces of onion in there. All right. My butter's just about melted. And I'm going to put it in here. Isn't this nice? These are the Pampered Chef prep bowls. They hold about 8 ounces of material. And they're marked on the side with the measurements over here, the metrics on this side, and they come with lids. So you can prep in advance like I just did, and then throw your onions in. All right, let's toss them around, make sure they get coated up with the butter. All right, and we're gonna just cook these for a couple of minutes, just until they get soft. Got a couple of pieces that refuse to get small, so I'm just like whacking them up with this thing in here. By the way, I guess I should mention, because I don't remember if I did, but I've shown you the stone in the oven a couple of times. I don't think Pampered Chef actually recommends that. That's kind of an iffy thing. They also recommend, if you're going to use that you put cold stuff on it, you put it into the cold oven. You know, like I said, more often than not, when I'm putting stuff in there, I am using it for getting the entire oven to hold a little bit of extra heat. So I'm not necessarily putting stuff directly on it unless I'm starting cold, okay? But you can also see how dark it gets, and that makes it practically a non-stick surface, which is nice. These are almost there. Should I show you my onions? I think I will. All right, onions in ye pan. You can use a yellow onion, I guess, if you want, but I think this is just a little bit of a richer kind of flavor going on. So they're starting to get soft. They're starting to get a little bit transparent. Very nice. Okay. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. Now we're in the medium-high range. And what I'm going to do is add, you can use red wine here. You could use Madeira. I am going to use red vermouth. Okay. Check that out. And I'm doing this because I tried using vermouth in an onion soup a couple of weeks ago, and that worked out really nicely. So we're gonna experiment a little bit with it here. Okay, so I'm gonna put in about 2 tablespoons worth. Woo. Ow! And we're gonna stir that around. Oops, sorry about that. Ooh, that smells good. Stir that around until most of the Madeira has evaporated. That can take a minute or 2. I'm not one of those guys that can pick up the thing and flip it and have stuff, move around. Live with it. I'm not putting on a show here. Oh, I guess I am. I'm not putting on that kind of a show here. Get some of these down into the base of the pan. Looking good, right? All right, I need to step away. I got to grab something over here. I'm just going to get your basic bowl. All right, and I'm going to remove the onions, put them in the bowl. Some of them are going to go in the bowl. Some are just going to go on the stovetop. Don't worry, onions, you'll be back. All right, most of them are out, and that's plenty. Now, here comes the rest of the butter. All right, I'm going to reduce the heat back down to medium. Let's buff up the butter a little bit so it melts faster. All right, so while that butter is melting, let me tell you about what's going in next. We have here, oh, hey, this is 8 tablespoons of flour, which again, I put in one of the Pampered Chef prep bowls. Basically, it would have been tedious for you to watch me ladling out the flour. You know, 8 tablespoons takes a long time. So, but I do have my Pampered Chef measuring spoon. Now this is the large one. It measures anywhere between 1 teaspoon and 1 tablespoon. And you just set the little thing to where you need it to go and scoop it up. This is an older one, so the slider is a little bit loose, but it still works fine. These are the new ones. They're nice and tight. So that's the large one, and that's the small one. Does anywhere between 1/8 and 1 teaspoon. So I could be measuring out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or I can use this guy, which also comes from the Pampered Chef. And it's just like a teeny tiny little measuring cup, and it's marked on the side, this side here for ounces, this side here for cups, up to a 1/4 cup. And over here, and you can read it from the inside, which is nice, is tablespoons and milliliters. So this holds up to 4 tablespoons. So I basically scooped out the flour twice with this guy and into here. And I can see that our butter is just about melted, so I'm going to bring it back over there. Here is our butter, and what I'm going to do is lower this heat. All right, and we're going to put the flour in there, and I'm going to get my PC whisk, and I'm going to stir that in really good. And we're making what they call a roux. Get this flour just a little bit lower, because this roux is going to cook for a while. Okay, once it is well blended in there, you can see it's getting to be a pretty consistent thing there. All right, and let that cook and bubble at low heat. This is going to take like a half hour, but it's worth it. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to cook this for about 30 minutes. We're going to make a very dark roux, and it might even have a few black flecks in it. That's okay. You're only going to stir it about every 5 minutes or so. All right. And what you're going to see is every time you look at it, it's not going to look any different. Okay. But then you give it a stir, and you'll see it get a little bit darker each time. So I'm going to stop for a couple minutes, and I'm going to come back maybe a couple of turns down the road, okay? Okay, we're about at the 5-minute mark, and I'm not going to do this every 5 minutes, but I do want you to see the first couple of turns here. All right, so here is our roux. It's just been sitting peacefully, and I'm going to use the silicone spatula this time around because I want to get some of this stuff down. All right. That there, but you can see it's kind of poofed up a little bit because of all the bubbles that are going on. So I'm going to scrape, and you can already see underneath it's starting to get darker, and that's what we want. This is going to be really dark when we're done. Okay, let's give it a good stir, mix it around. That is just lovely. Pardon my shoddy camera work. I got so wrapped up in the roux. All right, and once it is well blended through, we're gonna let it sit for another 5 minutes. All right, see you in a few. All right, gang, we are at the 10-minute mark now, and you can see it's starting to separate a little bit. It's looking thinner, the bubbles are getting bigger. That's all okay. All right, now watch what happens when we start stirring. Oh my God, look at that. Is that beautiful or what? Say yes, because that's the answer. Another nice, thorough stir, a little mix around. Get up what we can, and you can see, remember I said there'd be flecks in it? There they are. That is perfectly okay. All right, so we're at 10 minutes. I'm going to check in with you again at 20. We are at the 20-minute mark now. Okay, so I did skip a couple here. All right, take a look. Look how nice and dark that is. And we're going to give that yet another stir. It kind of got thin and then it got thick again. It's interesting the properties that this stuff takes on. It's almost like some of those weird mixtures you made in kindergarten and then played with. Stir it around. Get it to even out in the pan again. All right. And we'll be back in 10. All right, folks, we are at the 30-minute mark now. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give it just another quick whisk this time. And once again, look at that. Look how thick. Look how dark. That's just beautiful stuff. All right. Now remember the broth that we saved from a little while ago? We've got that right over here. And we're going to put in about a cup of it. And we're going to whisk it in real quick. There we go. Get it well incorporated. You'll see some of the stuff is sticking to the bottom. We want to scrape that up. And once that's in, we're going to put in the rest of the broth. We're nearly done here. How about that? In we go. And I'm going to bring these onions back in now. Scrape those guys in. Again, we're going to give it a good whisking to make sure it's all mixed thoroughly through. We're going to increase the heat now. Remember, it was really low before, so now we're going to put it into like the medium-high range. And we're going to keep on whisking it, all right? And this stuff is going to start to thicken up, because remember, that roux was originally 8 tablespoons of flour. Some of that crud off the side there. Tasty, tasty crud. Little bits of onion in my whisk. I gotta bounce those out there. I started humming to myself, and then I realized I'm getting ready to hum a copyrighted tune, and I don't want to get the copyright strike and take down my video. So if you can name that song in 2 notes, well, you're very, very smart. This is just starting to thicken up now. As it gets hotter, that's going to keep on going, especially as it starts to get bubbly. All right, so to that, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. And salt I don't have to measure. And similarly, about a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. We're not quite there yet, but I wanted to stir it in. Oops. Guess I'm getting another whisk. This one is not Pampered Chef, and it's got a slightly longer space between your hand and the action, so I don't have quite the control over this that I had. You can see the gravy splashing a little bit more than it was before. All right, we are in the home stretch. I got one more step. We're coming back to the vermouth. Okay, remember I put in about 2 tablespoons before. Okay, we're going to put in like another maybe 4. Okay, and again, you can use the vermouth, you can use a little red wine, you can use Madeira. All of those work very nicely. And again, stir to incorporate it well. And this, believe it or not, is just about finished. We can take it off the heat. Now what you have here is a little bit more than 4 cups, okay, because of the roux, because of the onion, because of the alcohol that we've stirred into it. All right, so this is not going to fit into your standard issue 4-cup container. So you're gonna have to think either a 4-cup container and a slightly smaller container, or well, much smaller container, or you're gonna have to find a bigger container to put it in. All right, this can be refrigerated. It will keep for a few days, and then right before you serve it, you reheat it over medium heat. You stir it a few times to keep it from scorching, and then if you got your drippings from your turkey, whisk those in as well. All right, give it a taste. You might need to add a little more salt and pepper. And that's it. You serve it to your family. And of course, you're going to let this cool before you put it into a container, especially if you're going to use plastic. But that's about it. You know, like I said, warm it up, put the drippings in. If you've got them, great. If you don't, it's still pretty much okay. Once this cools down to refrigerator temperature, it's going to turn into like brown jello. It's not going to look pretty, but it will thin up again as it warms up. So don't sweat that too deeply. If you want to thin it out a little bit more, the drippings will help a little bit, but also you can just pour in a little bit of broth. My thing when I'm making a full turkey is I like to take the giblets and the neck and all that other stuff, and I keep it simmering on the stove all day with some chicken broth, and I use it to baste the turkey. But if I need to thin out my gravy a little bit, I'm going to put some of that in there too. And the other thing is, once I'm done with that, I can whack up the giblets, throw those in too, make myself a nice giblet gravy. All right, you take that, put it in your gravy boat, serve it up warm, give it to your loved ones or your family, whichever. All right, and that's it for gravy.